الله أكبر الله أكبر حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر حي على الصلاة الله أكبر. Arise, giving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the highest of praise and the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Noble Ali. I want to give honors to the Moorish American standard, the red flag with the green five-pointed star in the center, representing the highest principles known to man, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I also acknowledge the United Mercantile Trader Banner, also known as the American flag. I want to give honors to Temple number 19, the Office of the Grand Governor, Lieutenant Grand Governor, the Sheik staff, and the admin staff who keep the peace. And last but certainly not least, I want to give honors to you, our visitors in the Grove, because when man honors man, he honors that Father God Allah, family. Gratitude for the both of you coming out this evening so we may continue to build on things that make us better citizens and reason together. The both of you are familiar with Noble Ali and the Moorish Divine National Movement? Okay. Since it's the both of you brothers here, could I get your names? What's your name, brother?
Micah L. Levet. Micah L. Levet.
Michael L. Levet?
Micah L. Levet.
L. Levet. Islam family. Where do you hail from? Are you from Atlanta, Georgia?
State Republic.
Say it again?
Louisiana State Republic.
Islam. Are you visiting or are you residing?
I'm residing here.
Okay. How long you been down here? Or over here, rather?
Since Katrina.
Okay. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Inshallah, man, if anything, you'll become a frequent sympathizer and a contributor to this Moorish Divine and National Movement. And yourself, brother?
Yes, Renzo Costa Bay.
Renzo Costa Bay. And where do you come from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina? Okay. All right. What part?
Wilmington.
Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yeah, right.
Okay. You know, I'm glad that you two brothers again are here to hear about the words of our prophet. Are both of you all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America?
I'm not.
No?
Not yet.
Okay. And what about yourself?
Yes and no.
Be honest.
Yes and
It's
no.
only the two of y'all here, so we can, we can build.
It's kind of like yes and no. I mean, I learned about it in prison. I served 5 years in the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
About 4 of those years I've been practicing, and I continued to practice once I was released. When I was in there, we used to proclaim our nationality. When we entered, we wrote down the people's names. They sent it out. It's supposed to be mailed to Washington, D.C. We supposed to be registered, and then they sent us back the card. And I mean, I got the card, but this is my first time really coming to a real temple in the world. And so I really, that's why I say yes and no.
I got you.
And I really do today I got questions.
Okay. But that's good, because inshallah I have answers. Let's do that since it's the both of you here, because there's no need for me to go into a measure without a full understanding. So I will, at this time I will open up any questions. No questions is too taboo, if you will. If I can't answer them, our Grand Sheik Rashid Ibn will be here shortly. He should be able to answer them. But I'm pretty confident, if there's any question that you have, I should be able to oblige. So a couple of house rules, being that we are in having a temple meeting, we want to conduct ourselves as such. So when you want to be recognized in the meeting, we ask that you rise. You put your feet at a 45-degree angle as such. 2 fingers closed on the right, 5 fingers open on the left, giving the highest of praise to Allah and the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Noble Ali. You only have to do that once, and then after that you can just raise your hand and stand or sit, depending on which speaker's at the rostrum and what he allows. But to initially, this is what we do. Interestingly enough, if you were to go to any city council meeting or any House of Representative meetings or any House of the Senate, they do the same thing. They rise and they come to the rostrum and they give praise to the whoever they may call their great God, and they also give honors to the present council whom they are addressing. So there's no strange happenings. Law governs all events. That our prophet is bringing us those same usages and forms that to groom us, so we may be able to do the same thing and approach these representatives and the statesmen, so we can be in the affairs of men. But yeah, floor is open, Brandon, family.
Okay.
All right.
Islam.
Islam.
I give all praise to Allah.
Mm-hmm.
I give honors to His Prophet, Noble Ali.
Islam.
And I give honors to all Moorish Americans all over the world who are contributing to the Moorish Divine and National Movement.
Islam.
Let me see where I should start, because it's kind of a lot.
That's fine.
So this Temple 19,
Mm-hmm.
is it affiliated with Rashid
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one name? What's the more name in Washington D.C.?
R. Jones Bay.
R. Jones Bay. That's
Okay.
right. Taj Tariq Bay.
Okay.
Pleasant Bay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get an understanding of what's really going on, because behind the wall
Mm-hmm.
is crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Define crazy. What can you give me an example?
When I say crazy, I mean when you go to certain camps,
Mm-hmm.
you have Moors who say they are up under Rashid and Temple 23, I believe. That's what his temple is.
1923. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we have the Moors who say they follow R. Jones Bay,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that came before him, I can't remember his name right off the head.
Okay.
But then you have the ones who have the Zooming of the Nation book,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good book in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It was very enlightening, but it's always debate amongst other Moors on the camps
Mhm.
about what's right, what's wrong, who
Mhm.
right, who wrong,
Mhm.
who's legit, who's not, and it just, to me, it stops us from really moving forward.
Mhm.
But I don't know if that's how it is out here.
Mhm.
I'm just telling you from in there what the experience was.
Okay.
So it's like, then you had the Moors, the Seven Seals Moors, and Taj Tariq Bey, and the Moors Order of the Round Table.
Mhm.
And it's just like, we got so many Moors who is got all these different denominations, and me, I mean, I just study and keep striving for myself and learn as much as I can
Mhm.
about everything. Because
Okay.
in the end, that's what's really gonna matter.
Okay.
Now I'm out here on the streets,
Mhm.
and I'm coming to this temple, and I plan on going to more temples around the eastern region, and I'm trying to see what's really going on.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know if that helps, but if you want to just give me a little bit of rundown.
Sure. Sure. So at the time where I'm going to start from the time of the prophet veiled in the form, if you will. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an abbreviated rundown of what happened since the prophet veiled the form when he passed away. Okay. What happened is that the temple had basically separated into three parts. All right. You have Emil, you have Sheik Rashid Ibn, all right, and then you have the reincarnated prophet. All right. His name slips my mind for whatever reason at the moment. But you have the reincarnated prophet. Once we lower the media and I can get my mind together, I can tell you what the brother's official name is. Those three separated. It is said that prophet. So while I'm on that specific topic of discernment, so the Moorish Science Temple of America is the institution. All right, it's the institution that was founded by Noble Drew Ali. All right, Noble Drew Ali. The purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America, as is said in our Quran questions, is to uplift fallen humanity. But we uplift fallen humanity by way of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, also known as the Moorish Divine and National Movement. You have, if you were to look at the Prophet's literature, if you were to look at the Moorish Guide, if you were to look at the Moorish Holy Quran, or even the Catechism, also known as the 101s of the Quran questions, you will not see or read anywhere that Prophet Noble Ali used the action of the Moorish Science Temple of America as Moorish science. Meaning how, in other words, what is the movement called in the Moorish Science Temple of America? The movement is not called Moorish science. The movement is called, literally, the Moorish Divine and National Movement. It is the Moorish Divine and National Movement. One reason because it's Moorish, it's recognizing who we are. And the reason that it's divine and national is because we're reclaiming our divinity, being a spirit and a part of Allah. All right, but that also goes to the importance of our nationality, which is defined as that quality of character which derives from a person belonging to a nation or state. In other words, it's a shared ideal. So we as Moorish Americans, we have a code, we have a shared ideal that is in alignment with what our Prophet teaches us. And what is in alignment with Allah, with what our Prophet teaches us, is what is in alignment of the great God Allah. So anywhere around the world, depending on how we, the way that we carry ourselves, the way that I'm talking to you at this very moment is Moorish American character, you know, and I get that from reading this pamphlet. This pamphlet doesn't talk about, I don't know the last time you read this pamphlet. This pamphlet doesn't say anything about blaming the quote-unquote white man. It doesn't tell you about anything outside of yourself. It says that the reason why we were enslaved is because we had failed to honor our foremothers and forefathers. And we strayed after the gods or the ideals to whom we know nothing of. That's why we were enslaved. And then he also goes on by saying that all nations have been enslaved. So, you know, the onus is not giving us a pity party. He's putting us in alignment with every other group of people that has been enslaved. He's telling us that we know that the Japanese has been enslaved. We know that the Zionist Jews have been enslaved. We know that each and every person that has a standing nation and a standing place of residency and a flag, they have at one point they have been enslaved. But the difference is between them and who we are and us is that they remained, or they were able to maintain their identity. We as Moorish Americans have not been able to do so because we were essentially stripped our nationality, our overall ideal, and our divine creed, which is Islamism. All right, and there is a difference between al-Islam taught by the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam and Islamism that was reintroduced and brought to us by our holy and divine Prophet Noble Ali alayhi salam. So when it's unfortunate at this time, we have to make sure that there's an understanding between what people will call quote unquote temple Moors and what people, you know, will consider, you know, Moors outside of this divine and national movement. All right, Moorish Americans are card-carrying members of an institution. So regardless of what grand body you're from, whether you're from the grand body under Ibn al-Il, whether you're the grand body under Kirkman Bey, whether you're under the grand body of the reincarnated prophet, you're still an active member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Moorish Science Temple of America is not the nation. I repeat, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam brother, the Moorish Science Temple of America is not the nation. The people are the nation because they carry the ideas of what the prophet instilled in us in this Moorish Holy Quran. You follow me? All right. If the institution, if this structure was to be demolished, you know, Allah forbid, tomorrow, we would still have a thriving nation because you would be alive. If Allah forbid, if someone was to attempt to murder each and every Moorish American living in the United States, if only one person survives, guess what? That nation survives. Because they have that ability to carry on the ideals of a people that make them right and exact, that make them upright, if you will. Does that make sense what I'm saying? All right. And I'll just go ahead and go over the spiel. Practically, card-carrying members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have driver's license, we file our taxes, we have driver's license, well, we have license plate rather, we vote, we follow the laws that is bestowed upon us by our government. It is our responsibility to be involved in the affairs of men so we can change the conditions, so we can change our people. We are family oriented. We strive to be family oriented rather. So, you know, you're not going to see us driving around in vehicles with decals on it. If we so happen to get pulled over, we are going to show them our driver's license because that's what the law asks us to do. The Moorish Noble Drew Ali had a lawyer. So if it so happened that we have to go to court and we can afford to have a counsel, we will provide ourselves with a counsel. We will not be our own lawyer because contrary to popular belief, unless we're immensely familiar with the laws, immensely familiar, we cannot afford to represent ourselves. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a lawyer if you're able to afford it. These are the things that Noble Drew Ali instructed us to do. Oscar Dupree was voted in to office by a majority vote of Moorish Americans. So for anybody outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America and even within the Moorish Science Temple of America making the claim that Noble Drew Ali did not vote, or that, you know, that Noble Drew Ali believed that voting was a game and so on and so forth, that's folly. These are the principles that every other group of people living in the United States, they're familiar with, whether or not they choose to or not. And let me play devil's advocate. Let's just say that we were like the quote-unquote the Asian population, where 30% of them voted. But the majority of that, but the rest of the majority, the 70% of them, they have businesses. They have thriving communities that is supported by their businesses. How long have you been in Atlanta?
You mean like no specific the date?
Yeah, I mean you're just visiting. You coming down?
I visit frequently.
Okay. How long have you been? How long are you going to be here today, or this weekend?
I'm gonna be here the whole week.
Okay. If you're familiar, if you know somebody or a friend, just ask them to take you to Buford Highway. Ask them where's Buford Highway, and if they're able to take you, go to Buford Highway. All right. There's a Latin American community that is thriving there. They started off, and they have an institution similar to the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's called the Latino American Association of Atlanta. It's a freestanding building. It's on the intersection of Lenox Road and Buford Highway. And they started off really small, but their job is to make sure that every Latino that comes in, whether they're Salvadorian, whether they're from Honduras, whether they're from Nicaragua, whatever, they're Latin American here. And they make sure that they are straight and they can be put in a position to be upstanding citizens. And to reinforce them being upstanding citizens, they have businesses. Because ultimately your responsibility as a citizen is to maintain, interestingly enough, the property value of the city or the state that you live in. So in other words, you have to make the city money. We as Asiatics or so-called black people, we have a linear ideology when it comes to spending. We don't have anything that's circular or reciprocal. We give money, when we get paid, where do we go? We go somewhere that is not conducive to building up our community. when we get our taxes, there's only a handful of us that may be able to, that decide that they want to start a business, a small business of that. But we don't have the ability to invest. That's another principle. So all of these things, going back to Buford Highway and the Latin American people in Atlanta, they've done. So they went from not having any transportation to go into their areas to having a shuttle that assists in public transportation. So our public transportation is MARTA. So wherever the MARTA couldn't go, the Latin American shuttle can go. All right, 10 years later, now they have their own bus line. That is nationality, because they're investing in their own people. You can also tell that they're investing in their people because when you get into that area, it's not the signage, the good majority of the signage is not in English, it's in Spanish. If you go to another part of Atlanta, in North Atlanta, called Doraville, you'll see that not only the signage over there in that area is in Spanish, or is in the Spanish language, you'll also see that it is in the Korean language. Why is that? Because they don't need anybody else outside of their community to help to support them. They can support, if something was to happen and only the people that lived in that community, they can thrive, they can provide. Because they put languages in place, they put a code in place for them to be able to live, for them to be able to support each other. And they pass that same ideology, those same principles to their children. You brothers been to a Chinese restaurant? Okay. So if you notice, over a period of time, they have their children run the registers. All right? That's instilling within them principles of self-reliance, of being independent. Whether or not they become doctors or lawyers, they know that when they grow up, they have to invest in their communities. So that is the principle. Those are the principles and virtues that Noble Drew Ali are instilling in us within this institution in which we call the Moorish Science Temple of America. Does not have to do anything with being radical against the government. Prophet said that in 1928, 1926, pardon yourself, this organization was incorporated with the government. In other words, we work along with the government. Mm-hmm. All right, to establish a better government. That's right. Islam. So that's what we're about. We're not about driving around talking about, actually driving around talking about we're traveling. We're not doing that. If we just so happen to get pulled over, we're not going to give the police officer 20 questions. All right, that's not what we're about. Islam, brother.
Islam. Being that I'm from Louisiana, I'm a Washita Moor.
Okay.
2 W's.
Right.
And when we have a community that, like you just said with the Latin Americans, that they're doing for self and everything, and they're upholding the law.
Right.
But we also have to do the same. But as far as, not being a part of, the U.S. government, because some of us are in a higher position than them to abrogate and say what we're going to enforce and not enforce on our law. And that's why I feel like there's so much confusion now, because there's a lot of Europeans who are not, they think that they are us and that they can do the things that we can do, when all of these rules were set up for them to abide by while on our land. So when I say that I'm traveling, that means that I am not a corporate person, I am not a corporate Moor American, I'm a Washita indigenous person who has all rights to utilize anything that's on my land. So that's what it means when people who aren't inside the temple say that they are traveling, because they understand that they are not a part of a government that has usurped them and taken power over them. And that we sometimes, just because we work alongside with them, doesn't mean that we can't put them in their place as the original people on this land.
Islam. So, being that this is a Holy Day meeting, and the idea of the Holy Day meeting is to raise up our people and to keep it holy, and to make people aware of the Spirit of Allah within them, that is a very, very, very valid statement, if you will. What I will say is that in the Moorish Science Temple of America, that is not what we practice.
Right.
That is not our ideology. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, again, we are part and partial. We know that anytime that you are on, whether or not you have your own land or not, you're still on land that you still have to pay taxes on.
Gotcha.
You're still on land that sooner or later, if someone wants to come in and they want to drill oil or get water, they can. If you don't believe me, you can talk to the people in Detroit. If you don't believe me, you can talk to the people that's over in parts of North Dakota, North and South Dakota. Those people still have they still have what you call residencies, but the government still has a foot on them.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, instead of us going against the grain, we work alongside with the government because that is what our prophet instructed us to do.
Right.
And instead of us looking to our way of making the government better, is to raise up and to groom one amongst ourselves within the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because you don't see other nations, regardless of where they come from. You don't see what you call the Italians that come over here.
Right.
We're the only group of people that it's like a tug of war with us.
Right.
We can agree on that, right?
Right. But there's a reason why.
We understand it, and we can go back and forth all day about because it's debatable.
It comes to understanding why that is, though.
Sir, I don't even want to debate over that. What the
Not
point,
a debate, no.
Sir, the only thing that I'm saying is that we in the Moorish Science Temple of America recognize that it is better for us to raise up our own amongst them and groom them so they can learn how to make the change within the insides of the government. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have to become president of the United States. They can do something as simple as being parts of recreation, being a part of Parks and Recreation. They can be on the staff of education, because what's ultimately is that you want to make sure that the next generation that comes after you is that they don't have to go through the same struggle that you do. You want to be on the same platform. You want to be on the same footing that people come from other parts of the world and they establish. You want to be in a position where nobody can run up in your home or question what you're doing in society.
Right.
And the best way to do that, told to us by our prophet, is to be a part and a partial. And any Moorish American that considers themselves to be a Moorish American, to be a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that means that it is their responsibility to abide by the Moorish Science Temple of America Divine Constitution and bylaws.
Right.
And in that, it states that we are to be a part and a partial of this said government.
Absolutely.
So, again, this is the reason why we're actually discussing this, because there's a difference between, again, members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and there's also a difference between those that want to adapt certain principles of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the ideology and the concept of being a Moor. Prophet said, "Man will find themselves where you can best solve your problems." So if you can best solve your problems within Washita, then Allahu Akbar.
Right.
And if you can find yourself, if you're able to solve your problems in the Moorish Science Temple of America, then that is a shared sentiment. The key is, instead of us debating how is it that we can work together,
Right.
how is it that we can help
It
to
starts with
establish
that.
and build communities, so we can have a dialogue and say, out of all the things that we disagree with, what are the things that we can agree with? What are the things that we can teach each other, so that when we veil the form, that our children can work together and make this place that we live in a much, much better. Yes, sir.
The only thing I'm saying is that I think you have to talk to people individually and find out whether, because for me, being Washita is being indigenous and
Right.
knowing that I'm on my own land, whereas being a political Moor is me being active in government, which was taken away from us previously
Right.
and given to another group of people, and they were put on the pedestal as the face of Native America or the
Right.
Native indigenous ones, until recently, where all information has found that it is our indigenous themselves,
Right.
who were actually the first people here, and that America was prosperous when we were in control.
Absolutely. And we're not, like I said, when we give honors to all Moorish Americans, and that includes those that are indigenous to this land, as well as those that are descendants of Africans that live in the northwestern and southwestern shores of that particular hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
So we give honors to that. And again, we have this thing called the A Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. So that includes everyone. That includes Washita, that includes Nubians,
Right.
that includes anyone that is of an olive tone. Our prophet says that all of us are Muslims. Whether you're living in Nicaragua, whether you're in El Salvador, whether you're in Chile, we are all Muslims. If anything, we are all ones that are striving to practice peace. And if we are all ones that are striving to practice peace, regardless of our tribes, then we should be finding some way to work together.
Right.
Because I can guarantee you that the Europeans are not set tripping. They can find, regardless of how many differences they have, they can find a way to make sure that their children are going to be on top. They're going to find a way to make sure that their children, whether they're German, whether they're from France, whether they're from certain parts of Arabia, if they have European blood and they want to claim the European blood, they're going to make sure they work together to make sure that their ideology of being a European is thriving and promoting and perpetuating.
Right.
That's why these certain things are put in place. You don't see anybody tripping over whether or not somebody's German or they're from France, right? They talk about what they got, the European Union. They talk about this idea talking about Brexit. You know what I'm saying? Because and the European Union is fighting. They're trying to keep Britain in there because they know if they lose a piece of that, that's a chink in the armor. And that's the thing that we as Asiatics, that's the thing is we as Asiatics need to understand. Nobody should be seeing a chink in the armor. And if they see a chink in the armor, that means there's a way that they can bring us down. And that's the last thing. We have been at the bottom of the barrel long enough. So there has to be a way that we have to come to a better understanding, regardless of how we go about demonstrating, that we can work together and we can show some form of solidarity in the outside of the world. Because all that other stuff that we can do that here. Right. But let us get a street first. Let us get a corner store first. You know what I'm saying? Let us get let us get a law firm. Matter of fact, let's go even better. Let us get a car. Can we build a car? Can we build a spaceship? You know what I'm saying? Right. You got what's interesting, and I hate to go back with it, but bear with me. In China, there are 10 ethnicities of Muslims that live in China. 10 ethnicities. You have some that look like your regular Pakistanis with the beards and everything, and you have those that are in the Far East that look like they're from Props and Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But they all pray to the East and they all say Allahu Akbar. And I'm pretty sure that they have a different way that they practice their Islam. But I can guarantee you that if you ask them what their nationality is, they're going to say they're Chinese. As a matter of fact, when they go make Hajj to Mecca, they have to go through a 3-month, it's either 2-week or 3-month program to make sure that when they go to Hajj, they're Chinese, and when they come back from Hajj, from the pilgrimage, they're Chinese. So it's not the issue of what the I give the differences to clarify and to give you a better idea of which direction that you need to go, brother, as a Moor. Because initially going back to you. Because again, our prophet said, man finds himself where he can best solve his problems. So if anything, like I even began the meeting, we would like for you to be a frequent sympathizer of this Moorish Divine and National Movement, because it's enough work for each and every one of us to do. Our problems on a larger scale seems like it's economic and social, but in a more profound sense, it's moral and spiritual. That means we have to connect back. We have to first know thyself and thy Father God Allah. And to know thyself and thy Father God Allah is to know that it's to know who you are. And that same spirit that is within you is within me. It's within this brother, it's within this sister right here. I'm arguing with myself right now. I'm chilling right there in that seat. You know what I'm saying? I got this turban going on right now, but it's really fly. I'm all looking at a reflection of myself. So we can understand the reflection of ourselves and understand how we can interact. Because that's another thing. We have a cookie cutter way of interacting with people. Because we don't see how that Allah in that person. But each individual is their own attribute of Allah. So I can't interact with this brother particularly. I have to learn him. I have to understand him, because to understand him is to understand myself. And then we can build a dialogue. And then, like I said from the beginning, we can reason together. So this dialogue that we have is good, because at the end of the day, if we calling ourselves building, we're supposed to leave with a better understanding. You knowing where I'm coming from and me knowing where you're coming from, but how is it that we can work together to make sure that we are a standing force against who's ever oppressing us? So I can come in and I can assist you, and you can do vice versa. You know, does that answer your question?
Yes.
You got another question?
Yes. That was good. That's a prime example of kind of what I was saying goes on.
Right. But you're gonna have that.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like on both ends, it's just all about following what the Prophet brought.
Absolutely.
And Act 5, I understand a lot of the stuff, like what he was saying, but Act 5 says this organization of the Moorish Scientific of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby.
Yes.
So that means that if I follow the Prophet, then I would lean this way.
Right.
We gotta build us up to the point where we have our own resources.
Right.
We have our own technology. We have our own food.
That's it.
Our own everything.
Speak on it more.
Is like you said about the Latinos who got their community.
Right.
Guess what them people doing? They self-governing themselves.
Right.
Because they don't need the government, the government to take care of them and their people.
Right.
They do it themselves by doing what is, I believe, in Act 7, by being industrial.
That's
right.
So that's how I see it. And
Right.
that's what I be striving to do.
Islam.
It takes finance to uplift a nation.
Definitely takes finance to uplift a nation.
It takes finance to uplift
Take finance to uplift a nation. So, and again, to simplify it, what the Prophet is saying, it takes finance to uplift to uplift an ideal. Whoever has a business idea, I mean, that's considered a pipe dream. If I have an idea, if this sister has an idea, I can nod my head and say, Islam says, you know, that's a great idea. But sooner or later, she's going to ask for some patronage because she can't manifest that idea. Same thing with a nation. How can we manifest this code that we're thriving to perpetuate if there's nothing to back it up? Where's this war chest, as our grand governor would say?
Demonstration.
You know, anytime whether it's a cold war, whether it's a hot war, you know, whether it's a discussion, you have two people that's able to bring resources together, to bring their resources and talk about what they can bring to the table. Have you ever just recently, Turkey is at odds with the United States. And the reason that they're at odds with the United States is because the United States and Turkey had a deal that they would send, I think, about 150 fighter planes to Turkey. All right? But the issue is that Turkey is getting their fighter planes from the United States, but they're getting their ammo from Russia. That's a conflict of interest. You know what I'm saying? So, and Turkey knows what they're doing. Turkey's playing the game. But the idea is that if Turkey don't have anything else, they have the financial capital. And they know that whether it's the United States or whether it's Russia, they both want it and they both need it. So they're going to play coy as much as they want, and they're going to negotiate. But I guarantee you that Turkey's going to have not only the planes, but they're going to have the ammo.
That's right.
And they're going and when you see them together, they're going to press hands and they're going to smile.
And they're going to stand their ground.
And they're going to stand their ground. So we have to, so when, you know, again, this is the affairs of men that we have to be equipped for. We have to, the Prophet says that we are to receive and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. But we can't reciprocate anything if we're thinking about things in a linear ideology. We're thinking of things just straight ahead. And we can't think of things, we can't afford at this time in our lives to think of things straight ahead. We can't afford at this time of our lives when we have brothers that are sacrificing their very lives to uplift the community. Going back to our good brother Nipsey Hussle, and for him to be gunned down.
That's right.
That brother, I'm not to harp so much on it, but that brother who committed that gruesome act, that committed that act of self-hatred, it's obvious that he had no idea what he was doing. He affected the very life of his seeds if he had children.
That's right.
And that's another thing before I go on to the next subject that we have to understand as Moorish Americans. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice helps us to recognize that every decision that you and I make, it not only just affects you and I, it affects everyone around us. So regardless, if I don't want to defile the book. If I was to continue to go back and forth with you, brother, let's keep it at home. If we would continue to have a discussion, because we're both passionate and we show conviction, what are these people going to learn? Are they going? What are they going to see? What part of Allah are they going to see? Are they going to see the part of Allah that gives them hope, that gives them compassion? They're going to see the aggressive part of Allah. They're going to see the conviction of Allah. But they already see that in the world. The purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to uplift fallen humanity. So it's a way that they need to see the reasoning of Allah. Mm-hmm. They need to see Al-Halim. They need to see the courteous and the compassion.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't benefit us. It doesn't benefit us to argue. Just like it doesn't benefit us out there for the world to see us in the way that we are. When I just found out, and I promise you I'm gonna yield the floor. I'm gonna yield the floor.
Please keep on.
It's a shame when one of our good brothers and good sisters fall, that after they fall and after they go to Allah, that you get comments on what they didn't do, or you want to point out a certain topic that they may not have agreed upon, and because they're not in the flesh to defend themselves, you point it out. You know, that's a low blow, and that's foul. You know, that's slander. You know, and again, that's something that harms. Our prophet says that the thing what breeds the lowest self is hatred, slander, murder, lewdness, theft, and everything that harms. So those are things that we shouldn't be practicing, but those things are bred by the foes, by misery, by weakness, by inconstancy. These are things that breed that hatred within ourselves. So, and again, this is in your pamphlet. I'm not just coming off the top of my neck. It sounds pretty cold-blooded, but I promise you, these are the words of the prophet. You know what I'm saying? It's the quality of character that I'm promoting and that I'm perpetuating. But I say all that to say is that they see us butting heads, family. They see us butting heads, and as long as they see us butting heads, they're going to continue to say this is what we can use against them. When I went back, and again, just full circle, when we talk about how we got overthrown. Matter of fact, more.
Sir.
When the last time somebody came into your place of business without you knowing?
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. When the last time somebody came into your home? That without you knowing? Nobody comes to your house. Nobody can come into your house. And for those who've seen Rick Chain, who've seen Dave Chappelle, nobody's going to come into your house and sit on your couch and plant their feet on your couch. Nobody's going to do that. But when you allow somebody to come into your home and to violate and to separate your family, you have every right for your home to get taken away from you. Because you allowed it to happen. You allowed that to happen. We allowed that to happen. That's how we got taken over. That's how we got taken over here in these shores, over here in the Mexico, in Western Mexico. That's how we got taken over on the shores of northwestern, on the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa, because we allowed somebody to come into our house and divide us. All right. United we stand, divided we fall. Our prophet also said that as well. So, do we have any other questions? I feel like I rambled enough. Yes, sir.
He kind of touched on it for me. What brought me, not saying this brought me in today, but he kind of touched on it when he gave his testimony and said that they sent paperwork to Washington, D.C. because I was told today that I should do something in regards to my personal matters to Washington, D.C., and I just didn't understand why. And I could do everything right here from this Georgia State Republic.
Right.
So he kind of touched on that, and so it feels like it gave me a little bit more security that they said.
I'm listening to you more. Go ahead.
So I'm in accordance with that.
Moorish Science Temple of America, our prophet filled out one document in Cook County, Illinois, and it can be found in your Quran questions. It's the affidavit. All right. This is the only document that needs to be that should be recognized in any institution. All right. And I'm sorry, not in any institution, in this institution of the Moorish Science Temple of America. All right. I'm not familiar with signing any other paperwork set apart from a legal name change. Again, it's certain things specifically in this temple as well as other card-carrying temples. They share similar sentiments, if not the same, where we honor this. And when the ideology and the myth that other nations come through and they fill out this grand paperwork and this lightning in the bottle and that's the reason why they're ahead. It's just that, it's a myth. They come in and they recognize who they are and they want to make sure that that their ideology and their concepts thrive in these United States. The Irish. Who do you think is responsible for the police department to this day? The Irish. Look it up. All right. They did not want to be abused by the common people, so they decided in their neighborhoods that they would protect and defend each other. And it just so happened that the states recognized how thorough that they were. And they signed them on as a private corporation, if you will, which became a public service. Same thing with the fire department. Who was over the fire department more initially?
Not sure. I think it was Italian.
Italians. They started off as private companies. The point that I'm making is that they saw a need because what was happening is that they weren't being recognized as citizens, so they had to build up themselves. Fires were happening. People were getting sick. So they had to come in and they had to take care of themselves. Prophet says in Acts 6 that we are to proclaim our nationality, to be recognized by the government in which they live in which we live in the nations of the earth. But how are you recognized? By good works, by actions and deeds. We're not asking to be recognized by way of paperwork, because the only thing we need to do is raise ourselves up. Recognition enables us to carry out our ideas. Recognition enables us that when our children decide to go out into the cares of the world, that they are protected, that they can be unmolested, that they can go from one place to the other. And our people, that this sister can go from Atlanta. Where you want to go, sis? Where you want to go in Africa? You want to go to Morocco? Fine. She can go to Morocco unmolested. She can go to Egypt unmolested.
That's right.
That's why we need to be recognized.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they can know that we have a power. But right now, again, if that power is flickering, we don't know what. We have no dog in the race. Islam family. So with that, do we have another question, brother? Thank you for coming out. You doing all right?
Yes, sir.
Islam, you've been here before, right?
Yes, sir.
Sunday school.
Sunday school. Praise Allah.
Yes.
Praise Allah.
Brother.
So that is the cusp of the Moorish Science Temple of America. More, Grand Sheik, I apologize. Please don't take my card. It's on the tip of my it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't call to memory the name of the reincarnated prophet.
John Gibbons.
John Gibbons. All right. So you have E. Millie Ill, C. Kirkman Bey, and John Gibbons Ill.
John Gibbons.
John Gibbons Ill. Yes.
Also known as the reincarnated prophet.
Yes.
Powerful brother.
That's Givens, G-I-V-I-N.
So what happens is there's two spellings historically. Just take down both. You have Givens hyphenated EL, capital EL, and you have Gibbons.
G-I-V-O-N-S.
Gibb.
Oh, that's John Gibbons?
Gibbons, yeah.
Oh, okay. Praise the Lord.
The most popular one is the first one, Givens. Yeah. It's the prophet's chauffeur as well. One of the prophet's chauffeurs. The other chauffeur was Brother A. Brown Bey.
Okay.
So that is the primary succession of when the prophet builds the form. Then you can branch off from there. So brother, we would definitely like you to return. We would definitely like for you to become a part of this temple. We need those who have ideas. We need you to be inspired by Allah, but we also want you to have a clear conception of what you're called to do. All right, so this is a holy day, but this is not a holy day for us to just feel good about ourselves. We are supposed to be inspired. So when we separate into the world, we can remember the relation that binds us up to love and unity. And we can continue to do the works that our prophet has assigned us to do within this Moorish Divine and National Movement. And it's the same thing with you, brother. For you to continue to come back and for us to fellowship and reason together. So again, that if anything, you can be a part and partial of this said movement and work with us to make sure that that we can bring ourselves, our own ideologies into fruition. Brother, we glad you're here more. We want you to come and help out as well. Yes, sir.
Islam.
Yes, sir.
So you say you want us to have a clear conception of what it is that we are called to do.
Yes.
Do you mind helping give us a clear conception of what is required and what a card-carrying member is actually responsible for doing?
Okay. Do you want the abbreviated version or do you want specific?
I want the drug out version.
What said you want the drug out version?
If you want, I'll take that one.
What time we got more? Okay, yeah, it's 9 o'clock. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do two things. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you an answer in part. And first thing you have to do is look into Act 7. All right, Act 7 says that members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts, Moorish Science Temple of America. All right, that's the first idea. That's the first responsibility. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities, Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. All right, meaning that if we are to, one thing that Temple Number 19 is good at, we're good at feeding the hungry, and we're good at clothing those that are homeless. All right, so we often have food and clothing drives. All right, we also have a presence in our community that we would like to grow. All right, we make frequent trips to city council. All right, we would like for you, if you have any ideas that you would like to do, submit them. All right. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All right, so we, as being sons and daughters, all right, must obey father and mother, all right, which is our prophet and Father God Allah, and be industrious. All right, so industrious again is having a business. Is also is making sure that you again have a presence in the community, etc., etc. Whatever ideas that you have, I said I was gonna get to you. I'm gonna get to you more. whatever ideas that you have, again, just bring them to the table. Nothing happens until something moves. So we can't talk about what the temple ain't doing if there's no members in the temple to do so. All right, so as John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. All right, so having a clear conception is to listen to that still small voice and think about knowing yourself, knowing who you are, what attribute of Allah you're going to embody and say, okay, this is what I am called to do. All right, the best way you can do that is continue to study yourself. When I ask you what to study and I say self, and when you're well studied and come back and say what to study, ask me again what to study, I will say yourself. Because mastery is a lifelong journey. Islam?
حي على الصلاة